It's a fine line between pleasure and pain. You've done it once, you can do it again. Whatever you've done, don't try to explain. It's a fine, fine line between pleasure and pain. Pleasure and pain. A life truly lived cannot be done without the two P's. Pleasure and pain. It's kind of like heads and tails. Some days you'll get a head, more so for the males generally, and some days you actually get a tail, usually for the gays. Luckily for me, pleasure is an internal job. So the likes of batteries and toys were marvelous, marvelous inventions. Pleasure is euphoric and pain is character building. And all stories tend to have or include pain and suffering. Now, the pain you've got to accept, but the suffering you don't need to accept. It's all part and parcel of the circle of life. It allows you to create life's pleasures. So the pain process obviously builds the character down the track. I remember going to see the Declaration of Independence Museum in Philadelphia, where on the walls was a quote which read, "There is no pains without gains." So with no pains, you obviously have no gains. So I remember taking a picture of that quote, and it's on the front of my desktop computer. So I love that quote. I absolutely love it. And another painful story or another struggle. So a lot of historians the stories of historians in the past obviously have had a lot of struggles. So one of the other stories that I like to highlight would be that of Thomas Edison. And Thomas Edison's teachers thought that he was too stupid to learn, but he certainly showed those cunts. Those teachers were a bunch of cunts as well. And he obviously had his light bulb moment, and he was actually the founder or the creator of the light bulb. So I love that story as well. Pain is sometimes not a choice, but as I said before, the suffering obviously is part of the choice. So it's all part of the state of mind. So you can choose to suffer from the pain, or you can choose to grow from it. And what the ancient Greeks said was, you can define pleasure as a feeling of promotion in life's process, and pain as a feeling of its hindrance to be overcome. So therefore, pleasure, he holds, is shaped from previous pain. And the great Aristotle once said, "It's important in ethics, pain is a primary motivator." And I love that quote also. And as such, humans are wired to cope very well with painful situations. So therefore, whatever hand that you're dealt, you might as well play your best hand, because sometimes you've just got nothing to lose. With the pain and pleasure scenario, I like to use the example of the theory of muscles. So if you're doing yoga, for example, and you're obviously holding a pose and you're in excruciating pain, the thing with muscles is, when the muscles tear, so the painful part, and they rebuild themselves, they grow. So it's exactly the same scenario with pleasure and pain. So the end result is that you'll be smiling from the results, because it's a growth process. Some pain you can't replace. So things like loss, you can't replace that type of pain. the thing about loss is that you've always got memories. So whether a person or a thing or a place, there's always memories attached to that. So, you know, whether you do go through, you know, painful loss, there's always the memories to take away from the painful losses in your life. And the greats like Buddha and the monks, they really love to live a life with no attachments. So obviously that gives you clarity in life, but it also gives you a clear mind and also purity. So they like to live their lives with minimal content, obviously, or minimal possessions in their life, but also live a life with minimal attachments. So therefore, there's no external influences causing them any additional pain. So that's why you always see the Dalai Lama with a massive smile on his face. I remember seeing a talk with Ian Thorpe, and the Dalai Lama was actually there, and it was fantastic. It was such an uplifting experience, and the Dalai Lama was such a down-to-earth guy and such a charismatic fellow, and yeah, I really loved watching that speech. So if you do want the chocolates, you've got to smile through the struggle, because it's all part and parcel. And the thing is, with smiling through the struggles, is it makes the mountaintops that much more enjoyable. For me, I've learnt the most about myself in my most painful moments. So when I was doing my Ironman, I remember the last 13 miles of the event just thinking, oh my goodness, there's still another, I've done half of the run and there's still another half to go. And I remember my most painful body part at the time, with the 13 kilometers to go, was obviously my ankles, because I didn't actually buy myself a new pair of shoes for the cushioning, which I should have thought. It was probably a really stupid thing for me to do. So I had really painful ankles because I had very little cushioning left in my shoes. But my absolutely most painful part of my body was actually my elbow, where I'd had stitches in my elbow. And I don't know whether it was just the way that I had it positioned in the run, but it was excruciating pain in my elbow. So I remember thinking, if I can put up with pain in my elbow, then I should be okay to complete the race. But it's funny. It's a funny thing that an event like that, the most pain obviously that I've ever been through externally, not internally, but externally, and probably emotionally as well. It all sort of ties in. But you have the realization of what you're actually capable of and what the mind is capable of, but also the realization that your mind is your most powerful, greatest weapon. And the way you use it in life, through pleasure and painful events, is ideally what shapes your future. So I remember being, obviously that the Ironman was a good example for me, through obviously the physical and mental pain. But yeah, my elbow, it was funny that was the most painful part of my body. I thought at the end of the race that was quite comical, because of all the things that you could have that be really sore. I mean, obviously my ankles, but my elbow, I thought that was just bizarre. So yeah, for me, I'd like to see myself as a bit of a pain eater, but a pleasure seeker. So therefore, I can honestly say that I am 100% at peace. Good chat.